Drummers Against Implied Timekeeping, Richard D'Alibis. Recently, I was looking on YouTube, and there was a discussion about great guitar players and who was the best guitar player. And it was a very difficult thing to read on the feed while they were having the conversation. And I want to kind of give you what I took away from it and teach those of you who come to visit on my channel, and I assume most of you are drummers, how to approach a dialogue or a group discussion on who your favorite musician is and this sort of thing. Now, as a disclaimer, this is my opinion, of course, so I ask those of you who are looking in to just bear with me. Now, the conversation was with the world's greatest guitar players in a general sense, in any style. But most of the guys were more hard rock oriented or metal oriented, younger guys, I think. And the conversation was moving along, but while the conversation was going on, it was a live feed, the comments and the way that the dialogue started to feed off of the comments was starting to get just basically a shouting match. There wasn't much getting on insights being brought forth on such a topic. And I think it is a wonderful thing to discuss musicians and how great they are and their influences and these sort of things. I think it helps musicians along to understand their own vision of what they want to do. But I want to give you the criteria of, if I was running the conversation, how to set the ground rules to get the most out of it. All right, so I guess that's what this video is about. How to get the most out of a musical conversation. But in this case, I want to just talk about guitar players. The world's greatest guitar player should be put in a context to be qualified into 3 parts. The first part is the technical. Just the technical facility of the instrument, regardless of the style, rock, metal, jazz, reggae, whatever it is, I don't care, just the technical approach to the instrument. That is the first view of how to judge the world's greatest guitar player. But that's not all of it. Because technical facility, while it is important, isn't the whole package to a great guitar player. And you have to remember that. So it only goes so far, your technical expertise, because the second part comes in, and that is creativity, songwriter, with a slash in between it. And in between creativity, songwriter, there is another slash, singer, because some guitar players are singers while they're playing guitar as well. And it's of equal parts, creativity, songwriting, singer. It just depends how the approach is, but it's the second part of the world's greatest guitar player. And we're only speaking about guitar, no other instrument right now, because I'm basing it upon what I had seen with this conversation on YouTube. And the third part is performance, live context. Regardless if it's a small cafe or just a large stadium, performance for that guitar player in this case. So again, 3 ways, 3 parts. One is technical prowess, technical ability, and its application to the music. The second is the creative aspect, how creative the solos are and just the rhythm of it, of playing the guitar, as it's applied to songwriting. And if the songwriter, guitarist, is also a singer, and how does that translate to the third part, performance? All right? That should be the criteria to work off of when talking about these sort of things in guitar. And in other instruments, it's a little bit different, and maybe I'll do another video on that. But I'll give you an example of what I mean. A lot of people would consider Eddie Van Halen a pretty good guitar player. Some of them consider him one of the greats, and I think rightly so. So I would say, just off the top of my head, I'll name a few. Eddie Van Halen, I would say, is a 9. On a scale from 1 to 10, he's a 9 guitar technician. As a songwriter, I would say he would be 6 or 7 as a songwriter. He was a very underrated backup singer, and as a performer, I'd give him an 8. He was a fantastic performer. Now, if we add the 3 numbers up, I think 9, 7, I'll give him for his songwriting, and 8, that would come to, I think, 24. That's how I rate Eddie Van Halen, 24, on a scale of 30. It's pretty high. Now, no one is a 30. No one is a 30, in my opinion. No one has ever been a 30 as a guitar player. Come pretty close. I'll give another example. How about Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top? As a guitar player, I think Billy Gibbons is a 9. This is my opinion, but he's a really good guitar player. Billy Gibbons is a 9. And as a songwriter, when I think about it, he's a really good songwriter, and he was a really good singer. So I have to give him, I think 8. He's an 8, maybe even a 9. And as a performer, he could be a 9, right? So Billy Gibbons could be 27 out of 30 on my scale. Let's say Guthrie Govan, the guitarist Guthrie Govan, in my opinion, is a 9 guitar player. Absolutely fantastic. As a songwriter, I'd give him a 6, right? I'd give him 15. And as a performer, he's very good. I'd give him an 8. So I think he'd be 22, Guthrie Govan. Another one that comes to mind would be Jimi Hendrix. You can't have a discussion without the guitar players without talking about Jimi Hendrix, right? As a guitar player, he's without question, I think he is a 9. As a songwriter, no question, he's 9 because he would sing these songs, produce the records. He's definitely 9. And there's where the argument comes in. As a performer, he might even be a 10, but let's give him a 9. He's another 27, maybe even 28, Jimi Hendrix. And then, Gary Moore comes to mind. Gary Moore is a 10 technician. He's a 5 or 6 songwriter, I'll give him a 5, and he is a 9, in my opinion, performer. He's like 24. So you see what I'm trying to, at least as an example off the top of my head, when you're discussing a guitar player in this case, any guitar player, any style, you have to include not just the technical aspect. You have to look at the whole package. How was that technique applied to the songs that they were writing, if he was writing? And how was his voice, if he could sing? Obviously, I think someone who can write is one thing, but if they can write and sing their own songs and project that in a performance, that has more bearing on the subject because the overall performance. Another one that comes to mind is Prince. Prince was an underrated guitar player. I've always said this. In my opinion, he's a 9 guitar player, besides playing other instruments very well. And as a songwriter, he's got to get a 9, and as a performer, I think I'd give him a 9 too. So there you go, there's another 27. I only say these names off the top of my head because there are a lot of great technicians. They may not be great performers. Or there may be a lot of good songwriters, but not the greatest guitar players, or, every variable in between. I just want to tell younger people, definitely always debate these great things. I think it's helpful for you. But understand, the way I'm telling you is a better qualification and a more expressed way to really find the whole package. And of course, as I say, no one has ever been a 10, 10, 10 in my view, under the 3 criteria that I'm laying forth. As you go to other instruments, like drums, our instrument, assuming most of you are drummers, a guy like Phil Collins comes to mind. Phil Collins is a tremendous drummer. I would give him definitely a 7, right? Songwriter, he is a singer-songwriter. He's written some great songs. 8. Producer, vocalist, not the greatest, but a good vocalist. So he gets a solid 8. And as a performer, he definitely gets an 8 or even 9. You know, think about that. He's like 24, 25 on my scale. Phil Collins as a drummer, because he does other things. Now there are other drummers who might be technically more proficient than him. Even in their context, Dave Weckl might be a better drummer or something. But Dave is not a singer in the sense, or a songwriter, as Dave Weckl may be. So just as a rule of thumb, that's not to begrudge or make fun of anyone. The idea is, how much can they bring under these 3 criteria, in my view, all right? I wish I didn't want to go onto the live feed and get into that, but what I want to do is for guys who come over here to see me, I want you to just have just a way to express yourself that is just clear and qualifies the thoughts, rather than just say, I like this guy because he's the greatest. And that's okay too, but it doesn't qualify it enough, you know? I like Yngwie, for example. What a technician, a 10. But I'd say his songwriting might be 6. And his performance in his day was a definite 8. So it might be another 24 in my mind, somewhere in there, all right? Just understand, as a rule of thumb, I can make exceptions to the rule and think of other guys, but this is the criteria I think is best. If you're going to have a conversation, try to use this criteria. If you have any questions or ideas or opinions you want to share with me and ask, feel free. I'll put it in the box. I'll answer as best I can. And I want to welcome everyone who's coming to visit over here. Obviously, I'm a drum channel, and I love teaching drums, especially in the open-handed position. I have particular things that I want to do to enhance your power, your independence, and of course, your creativity as a player. And if you haven't, I'm inviting you to subscribe, because your subscription is the support for me, and I thank all of you. I'll leave my PayPal account address in the box. Anything you can do to support me, thank you always. And I have lots of videos on, my favorite drummers, pop, punk. There's a lot in my catalog. So for those of you who are visiting, please take the time and just go through what I'm trying to do. And I thank all of you for your support. So let me know what you think. This is just guitar players today. Maybe I'll do favorite singers or something else, all right? My best to you always, and thank you for looking in. Take care.